Hello, welcome. So today we're going to be looking at r/am I the butthole? I might sound a bit odd today. I am definitely full up of whatever this respiratory virus is that's going around. Oh my goodness, I swear, if I cough anymore, I may cough up my ring piece. It might happen. Anyway, if that sounds like something you'd be interested in listening to today, then please do stick around and enjoy. And don't forget to like and subscribe, please. Thank you. I probably shouldn't leave in that bit about coughing up my ring piece. I don't know. I might not. Anyway, first story. Am I the butthole for correcting someone who assumed I just gave birth and shamed me? Hi everyone. I'm trying to figure out if I messed up here or not. I, 35F, and my wife, 35F, recently welcomed our second baby, a son. After the birth, he was smaller than expected and needed preemie clothes. Our daughter was pretty large, so we didn't expect him to be so small and never had any preemie items on hand. While my wife and newborn were in the hospital, I left to go to the nearest baby store to get some newborn preemie clothes. I was excited, proud, telling the ladies, including two friends who work there, how cute our little guy is and how amazing my wife did. While there, a shopper came up to me and said something along the lines of, "You should not be shopping for baby clothes when you are having a baby." I laughed it off at first, but she then doubled down, claiming that God would be displeased that I abandoned my baby to shop. She also said that I needed to rest because I had just given birth. That's when it clicked. She'd assumed that I was the one who gave birth. I corrected her. No, my wife gave birth. I was there for support and getting clothes for our son. She gave me this disgusted look, got more angry, and told me I was going to hell. Sounds about on brand, that. For that type of person? I replied, I hope so, if that's where all the gays go. Yes, party in hell. I'm sure we'll have one hell of a time. Haha, I like the pun. I see what you did there. She then grasped her pearls, literally or figuratively, and walked off. Since then, I've thought a lot about it. Everyone I've talked to said that I was not the butthole. No, you are not the butthole. But I saw the same woman again on 2 other occasions in the store, giving me looks that could kill. So Reddit, am I the butthole? Obviously not. Those types, like, there is a certain type of religious person that is the most insufferable type of person I think any of us will ever come across, and they give everyone else who has that religious belief a really bad name. And I can bet my butthole this was in America because they all seem to congregate there for some reason. I feel so sorry for all of you guys who live in America that have to deal with these people on the daily. Like, what the hell? But yeah, no. Homophobia, for one. Also, never just assume you know something about someone and their reproductive issues or whatever and what's going on. Don't sit there telling someone how they should be parenting or how they should be acting after they've had a kid. So she was nosy. She was giving unasked for, unwanted advice. And she was also using religion to beat someone over the head and be a butthole. So, she hit the trifecta of Karen there, didn't she? No, OP, you are not the butthole. And yeah, party in hell for everyone. We'll all arrange to meet, shall we? And of course, down in the comments, Quartz87 says not the butthole. The shopper overheard a conversation that did not include them, then made accusations they had no basis on, and then tried to religion dump on you. Your response was perfect, and I commend you for it. And must I say, this type of religious person who is like really nasty to everyone and uses their religious beliefs for that, it amuses me greatly that they think that they would be good enough to get into heaven in the first place. Because I guarantee you, if God is real, I don't think he's going to like that type of person. He's not going to want them, is he? Or she? Or maybe it's just a Cthulhu, who knows? Oh my goodness. Oh, I sound like a wheezy teapot. Next post, am I the butthole for quitting another extracurricular because it was another one I couldn't do without my siblings? I, 16M, have a younger sister, 14F, and brother, 12M, and they're both on the autism spectrum. My parents think we're not close because of that, and because I'm ableist, but it's just that I don't want everything to be something we do together, which is fair, especially being a 16-year-old. My parents are big on that. They always say family comes first, and whether you've already made plans with someone else or not, it doesn't matter. You break any pre-existing plan for your family, and it doesn't matter who else you have plans with or what that plan is. That's something they've forced our whole lives. I can see this OP going no contact with their parents as soon as they're old enough. Goodness me. There were birthday parties they RSVP'd yes for on my behalf, and then didn't even let the other parents know, and made me stay and spend time with the family. They took my phone off me because I wanted to tell friends I couldn't meet up with them when I was supposed to be heading to them, because my mum or dad decided we needed family day or a sibling day. Other times they said I could have friends over and sent them away even if they didn't have anyone to pick them up, because my parents suddenly decided I just needed to spend time with my siblings or the family. It made me lose friends because their parents would be like, F that kid and his family. Yeah, this feels very actually quite insidious, doesn't it? I don't know if anyone else is picking up on that tone, because it actually genuinely feels like the parents are using this as a form of abuse, because they're making these plans, letting the OP get excited, and then not even letting them tell people that they can't. It's like they're purposefully trying to cut the OP off from the outside world. And the way that they're cancelling plans, they know that that's going to make people just not want to be anywhere near OP in any capacity, because they're all just going to get fed up and think that OP's rude. Like, that's really concerning. Because my siblings are on the spectrum, my parents take them having outlets that they enjoy very seriously. My sister has piano and violin lessons, and my brother takes drawing and painting classes. My parents spend a fortune on those because they need that. I never got the same. If my parents had to pay for it, I needed to do it with my siblings. They might not tell me that at the start, but it happened that way always. I'm getting glass child vibes. And my brother, even though he was way too young and not supposed to be in the same group as me, was brought along and dropped off with me, so I quit. When I tried swimming, my sister was brought along and she was put in a different group, but my parents would bring her during my group's time anyways, and told them that she was there, so she'd need to be allowed to swim. I genuinely want to shake these parents. She never got to join the same group as me, but she was there every time, and my dad fussed about us doing it together, so I quit that. I didn't ask them to pay for more activities for me. I tried talking to my parents, but they got mad at me for not wanting my siblings involved. They said it goes against everything we believe in as a family. That's where I'd be like, well, that might be what you believe in, but it's not what I fucking believe in, you pair of turds. And I should want to include them in everything, and it's wrong for me to throw stuff away because I'm trying to be antisocial to my siblings. Oh, you don't reckon that OP's parents are trying to cut them off from the outside world and trying to make them think that they have to do everything with their siblings, so that when OP's old enough, they can go, ha, they're your responsibility now, and the parents can go piss off into the sunset and, do whatever they want. My friend told me his family went to the community centre and they had free activities of different kinds. None of it was as professionally run as the paid stuff, but I wanted to have my own thing. I tried photography, but my parents got my brother to go, and a few weeks ago I tried cooking, but my parents decided that both my siblings needed to join in. I quit again, and it pissed my parents off. They said it looked bad being 16 and sticking with nothing and having no extracurriculars, and how it would close a lot of college doors. I told them I didn't care because I wanted something for me, not for me to spend time with my sibling. They told me that I was unreasonable and how people would kill to have a family like mine. I guarantee they wouldn't. Not when it's like that. They told me I was being a bully and my siblings would think I hate them. I said I didn't care what they all thought. I said if they can have their own things that are just for them, then I should get it too. I told them I was done trying because nothing would ever be for me. My parents got mad at my attitude towards my siblings and doing stuff with them, so I told them to kick me out because that sounded better than this. Now I'm not allowed to do anything with my friends or go anywhere without my sibling or my whole family, and they said it's because I'm being a brat and a hurtful brat, and that it makes it worse. Am I the butthole? No, not at all. Your parents are awful. Your parents are trying to parentify you in a really sly way. That's what I think is happening here. They're trying to make it so that as soon as OP's old enough to be able to be responsible for 2 autistic kids, they can then shove that responsibility on them, try and force them into it, and then, yeah, they can go and do whatever they want. It's almost like they're trying to brainwash the OP into being the perfect carer. That's not on. And even if that's not what they're doing, at any level, this is wrong. So then down in the comments, Brewdog Drinker says, 2 years from now, parents, why doesn't OP speak to us or come visit anymore? Do you have any relatives that you could live with or advocate for you? Update me. So I personally couldn't find an update, but the OP had said in the comments, like a few people had said, you know, have you got family? They said none that they could talk to about it. They had mentioned that their parents won't even let them get a job. And worryingly, they'd actually said that they'd considered just running away and roughing it for a few years as a way to get out. So, like, that shows how serious doing things like this as a parent, the serious effect that it's going to have on your kid. These parents really need to book their friggin' ideas up. Now, a lot of people had suggested they talk to the school, and the OP seemed a little bit dubious. Like, they'd said they had, but I highly doubt they have told them the full extent, because I think any school would find this actually quite worrying. But then again, I don't know, some schools can be a bit shite, can't they? But yeah, I mean, that's what's going to happen. This OP is going to end up just legging it if they don't pull the finger out their asses and start treating them like their very own human being. Am I the butthole for refusing to tell my mum, who told me that her husband isn't my dad? Okie dokie then. I, 16F, always wondered why my dad treated me different to my siblings, 15F, 12M, and 11M. Even though me and my sister are just over a year apart in age, he would love on her and was super supportive of her and her interests. He was her cheerleader when she needed one, and he made sure to be there for all her plays. He's the same with my brothers, but he's never been to any of my recitals. He never showed an interest in the stuff I liked. Whenever I went to him for cheering up, he brushed me off. And he spoiled my siblings by buying them toys, candy, or whatever, but he never got that stuff for me. When mum wasn't home, I was either pushed to sleep at a friend's house or a family member's house, or he'd do a movie night or game night with my siblings and told me to stay in my room. What a fucking asshole. Even if you know full well that the child isn't yours, if you choose to stay knowing that, then you have to treat them as if they were. I cried to my mum so many times about it, and she told me he treated me that way because we were the most alike and we butted heads. But I never fought him or disagreed with him. I never got the time with him to do any of that. So, when a relative told me a couple of months ago that he's not my dad, my mum was seeing him and my bio dad. Dad knew about my bio dad and said he wasn't going to keep sharing her, so mum chose him. And then when she found out about me, he said that she could keep me regardless, but if I wasn't his, he wanted a kid of his own. They DNA tested me, and I'm not his, so my sister was born so close to me because of the promise. This is so messed up. They're just, like, playing house with actual biological lives here. Like, what the hell? It's got like an icky feeling of, oh, we didn't get it right the first time, let's try it the second time, don't worry about that one was a mistake. Like, disgusting. After hearing the truth and seeing proof, I confronted my parents. He told me now that I knew I could start calling him Drake instead of Dad. He's such an asshole. My mum was not as yay she knows though. I've been trying to figure out what that sentence means and I do not understand. She has asked me every day, sometimes multiple times a day, who told me. She was pestered by several family members, to be honest, and she had no idea which of them said something, and I refused to tell. I love how she's trying to act like someone else is in the wrong for telling you. Like, she should have told you. Even if it was disrespectful to do it behind her back, I'm glad I found out now. It also opened up the truth that I have no college savings like my siblings, and Drake doesn't want me to stay a day after my 18th birthday. And if your mum is agreeing to all of this, she is as much of a bastard as he is. He said I was never his, he never loved me, and he wants at least 1 year of just his family. All my mum cares about is finding out who. She tried to ground me, and she told me I needed to say because nobody should tell a kid stuff like this without a parent knowing and being there. She said hiding who they are also makes them shitty because they are encouraging a minor to keep stuff from a parent intentionally to avoid consequences for the person. The hypocrisy! Oh my goodness! Does she not see that is exactly what she's been doing? But instead, she's been keeping things from a minor intentionally to avoid consequences for herself and for her stupid ass boyfriend Drake? Goodness me. Am I the butthole? No, your mum and Drake need putting in the bin. So, in the comments, Dash and Mum 5 says, "You have a terrible mother. What a shit parent." Hear, hear. Hard agree. "I'm being emotionally neglected and abused my entire childhood." Mum proceeds to gaslight daughter and lie for years. Finally, someone is honest, and she does not give a shit about the emotional damage done, just who finally was honest. She's also okay with you having nothing like your siblings and being kicked out. Terrible parent. You will never be the asshole to her. She has entirely failed as a parent. She deserves the worst. Yeah, her and Drake both deserve the worst. Absolutely. They are awful people. What massive bumholes. So then, last post of the day, am I the butthole for telling my wife to marry her expletive therapist because I am expletive done? I love how you censored it. Makes it much easier for me. Thanks, OP. After our oldest son was born, my wife decided to not return from maternity leave and be a stay-at-home mum. 6 months later, we started noticing missing milestones and other concerns. We expressed our concerns to his paediatrician, who said milestones were just guidelines and not to worry. Around this time, my wife started to get anxious and frustrated more and more. She said something was wrong with our son and we needed to help him. Honestly, I can 100% understand that, feeling very anxious when they're missing milestones or they're not acting like other children would. I do get that. It's very, very stressful, especially when you feel like no one's listening. We went to a second paediatrician who gave us take-home evaluations to do. They stressed out my wife, who said she couldn't fill them out because she was afraid of accidentally answering wrong. I did my best to fill them out, but since she was the stay-at-home parent, I needed her help on certain parts because some questions were phrased, how many times per day, XYZ, and I needed information from her to answer that. She got very frustrated during this process and said I wasn't supporting her. Honestly, I do understand. I've been through this, obviously, with my one kid who is on the spectrum and has actually now been diagnosed. It's very stressful. They want to know the ins and outs of your day from every little thing, and sometimes you do miss things, but that's why it's a long process, because you go over a lot of stuff again and again, and then you'll be like, oh, I forgot to tell you this last time. Or the assessors will be like, oh, we've noticed this, which we didn't notice before. You know, anyone, if you are going through the process, honestly, just stick with it. Don't be stressed about having to get everything perfect on the first lot of forms you get given or evaluations, because you will go over the same topics again and again and more stuff will come to light, or you'll decide you need to change this or that or the other. That's the way it's set up to be. You know, don't worry over it too much. Just write down what you see, what behaviours happen, what happens on this day, what happens on that day to the best of your memory. Give it to them and go from there. You know, it doesn't need to be as stressful as it is, but I do understand why we stress, because I know I did. The paediatrician diagnosed our son as autistic when he was almost 2. My wife was upset by this, and the paediatrician recommended she see a therapist, as parents of autistic children sometimes struggle, especially the parent who spends the most time with the child. Yeah, it's definitely, it's interesting. In some ways, that's the last time I ever saw my wife. Her frustration and anxiety only got worse. She's a completely different person now. She only communicates in therapy speak, and she acts like her therapist is God, and she is her prophet, carrying her commandments to me from on high to defy at my own risk. Okay. Here is an example of some of the insane things her therapist has apparently told her over the years. Our son is emotionally abusive. Kids can't be emotionally abusive at that age. He was 3 when she said this, because he intentionally withholds affection. I am emotionally abusive because I cancelled a date with her after she called me a loser, and I didn't want to spend the evening with her. Okay. I am sexually abusive because I told her I didn't want to have S with her after an argument to punish her. Fights don't get me horny, but that's my fault, I guess. Yeah, I think you are not alone on that one, OP. I am financially abusive because I told her I didn't think we could afford another baby. That we ended up having anyway because she wore me down. I am physically abusive because I put my arm out to stop her from walking into the kitchen when I was sweeping glass off the floor. Our son is physically abusive because he accidentally kicked her while throwing a tantrum. He was 5. Those are just a few examples. I have more, but the post is already too long. Are we sure the therapist is saying all this? I wonder. Obviously, I am no therapist. I could not say. But I just struggle to believe that a therapist would tell someone all of this, because obviously it's not true. Putting your arm out to stop someone from cutting their feet to pieces on glass is not abuse. As I mentioned, she wanted to have another baby. I thought it was a bad idea. Yeah, especially if she's been acting this way, I would agree with you there. I have actually been trying to convince her to go back to work so we can afford specialised care for our son. But even bringing up the idea is, you guessed it, abusive. Well, we had the baby, which I thought was a bad idea, but that's in the past now. I mean, I am going to side-eye you for that one. You should have just out and out refused. You have the ability to refuse. Our second son turns a year old soon, and for the past year, my wife has acted like our older son, and I are the enemy forces against her and our younger son. She no longer is providing our older son with any care. I had to scale back at work so I could drop him off and pick him up from school, but that wasn't sustainable. We were bleeding money. I finally found an after-school program for him, which is expensive, but it allowed me to work the hours I need to. I told my wife it's not fair to our older son to ignore him and treat him like he isn't around. Obviously the baby needs more attention, but it's wrong not to give our older child any. It also isn't fair to me because I hardly ever get to interact with our younger child since I have to do all the care for our older child, and she always has the younger. She said her therapist told her that in a way, our older son actually killed her first baby because he is the disease that replaced him. What? I said I don't care about her therapist. This is about our family and she is neglecting us. She said her therapist said neglect was a weaponized term. I told her to marry her effing therapist because I am effing done. I told her I am filing for divorce. I completely understand why you would. I think you should. She lost it when I said that. She said I can't talk about her therapist like that. I'm trying to alienate her from her support person, and that's abuse. I talked to my friend who is a lawyer to get a recommendation for a divorce lawyer. He told me it's an a-hole thing to do to insult her therapist because therapy is important and it's not the therapist who told her to neglect our kid, hopefully. This therapist ruined my marriage and turned my wife into a crazy person. How am I wrong for insulting that? But if my own friend disagrees, I guess I might need a reality check. No, I genuinely think your mate needs a reality check. What are they on about? You were a butthole for insulting the therapist. If the therapist is saying all of this stuff, big if, the therapist is filling her head with so much crap. So they are a terrible therapist. I would probably report what the wife is coming home and saying the therapist is saying, just so that someone outside of it can look into that. And then if the therapist isn't saying it, they know then that more help needs to be gotten for the OP's wife. And then if the therapist is saying that and telling them all of that stuff, the therapist needs the sack and their right to practice therapy revoked. So then down in the comments, Shadowed Stranger says, that is not a therapist, but a parasitic enabler. And then Legrand Blur 88 says, to be fair, the therapist only hears her side of the story, and who knows how she portrays both the son and the husband. Still though, I still think if the therapist actually said those things, then the therapist shouldn't be allowed to practice because even if she was going there and being like, yeah, my 5-year-old hits and kicks me, that's not abuse. The therapist should be saying, okay, I would recommend you look at getting the child some help because it's not abuse. It's a 5-year-old throwing a fit and not knowing how to control themselves, you know? And other places says her son having killed her first baby because he's the disease part is no way sane, whether they hear only her side or not. Precisely. If the therapist has said any of those things, the therapist needs investigating. Simple as. But I do wonder if the therapist has said any of this stuff, and if it's just that the wife is becoming more and more disconnected from reality because she clearly seems to believe it all. Either that or she is just an extremely manipulative, nasty person. Either way, the poor first son and the husband are being well and truly neglected, and I would say emotionally abused by the wife, to be honest. Okay, I think that's where we're going to leave it for the day. If you made it all the way to the end with me, then I appreciate you very, very much. If you give a little like, subscribe, turn your notifications on, that is your initiation into the cult void. Welcome. Whatever it is you're doing for the day, I hope you have a really good rest of the day. Goodbye.